What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to O'Leary's Garden, where life is a garden. Today I'm gonna show you how to make hot sauce. The habanero peppers were a big success this year, and I couldn't think of a better way to make use of them than to try my hand at hot sauce. Let's get to it. The first thing I'm going to recommend to you is that you do wear gloves. As you can see, I wore gloves while I was cutting them up at least, and I still ended up with some on my hands, and I did scratch my face, and there was pain. That being said, this process is the same for any kind of pepper you want. You can do this with Tabasco, jalapeno, cayenne, any kind of spicy pepper that you want to make a sauce out of and you've got in your garden, or you pick up from a local grocery store or farmer's market. The hot sauce that we're making today will be fermented using a process called lacto fermentation. Lacto fermentation is a method of preserving food that has been around for a long time. In fact, most of your commercial hot sauces are fermented in this way. By submerging your fermentee in a brine of salt and water, you create an optimal environment for a bacteria called lactobacillus to thrive where other bacteria cannot. The bacteria converts sugars and other carbohydrates into lactic acid, which drops the pH of your ferment and making it more shelf stable, giving it a kind of tangy flavor. You could liken it to a natural pickling process. Now that you understand that, all we're doing here is cutting the stems off the peppers. I'm throwing the tops into the compost bucket and cutting the peppers up smaller so I can get as many into that jar as possible. When your jar starts getting full, go ahead and mash them down so you can get even more in there. Go ahead and really cram them in there. If you will be fermenting in a jar the same way that I'm doing, go ahead and get the weight of your jar empty, or any container that you're using. Get the weight of that jar so you can get your scale zeroed out, because we're going to make the brine based off the weight of the peppers and the water when the jar is full. The weight of your full container minus the weight of the container itself equals the total weight of your ferment. Of that total weight, you want 3% to be salt. So take your total weight, multiply it by 0.03, and there's the amount of salt that you need to add to your brine. For example, if your full container weighs 85 ounces and the container itself weighs 5 ounces, your total weight of the ferment is 80 ounces. Multiply that by 0.03, and you come up with 2.4 ounces of salt added to your brine. Now that we have that number, we'll go ahead and empty the water back out of the jar into another jar. We'll add our salt, and then we'll shake it. Excuse me if you could, I just really love my hot sauce. So now we're going to go ahead and get that brine dumped back up on our peppers. Look at that. Now go ahead and try and get rid of some of them air bubbles and get all your peppers down into your brine. And then grab yourself a little plastic baggie filled with water. What this is going to do is hold your peppers down in the solution, because we want our everything in the solution. Lactobacillus thrives in an anaerobic environment, so you want to make sure that everything stays where oxygen can't get to it, but the carbon dioxide can get out. And then you'll set it up in your closet or wherever you do your ferments. I do mine right here next to the booze for 10 days. What I forgot to mention to you and catch you on video when I did it is that I went and got some frozen mango chunks from the grocery store, and I threw them in another fermenter. They haven't been going as long as the habaneros have. They've probably been in there for 5 or 6 days, But we're gonna go ahead and mix this stuff together and try out some mango habanero hot sauce and see what happens. Now the first thing we're gonna do is take the brine out of both of these jars, because we're gonna add that to the sauce later after we puree all the rest of this stuff up. You know what I'm thinking? Ooh, it's really hot. It's really hot. There's not even that much habanero. There's like 2 habaneros in this mango jar, and that brine just from the mangoes. You get a lot of the mango flavor in that brine. It's good, but she is hot. Okay, so we got our brine set aside. Now what we're gonna do is puree up all of the solids that was in that ferment. We're gonna make a mush. You have to go on the thing. Now we're going to pasteurize it just like we do fruit when we put it in our mead. We want to pasteurize this to kill off any lactobacillus that's still alive and will continue to ferment. You can skip this step if you want to and just go ahead and dump that right in your fridge. You can also skip this step here. I'm going to strain it to get all the solids out so I end up with a smooth sauce, not a chunky thing, just because that's what I feel like doing this time. You can skip that if you want. You could take that puree right there, mix it with the brine, throw it in the jar, and put it right in the fridge if you want to. Spoon it out onto whatever you're eating. But I'd like to strain mine this time, and I'm going to pasteurize it. If you don't pasteurize it, it will continue to ferment. Even in the refrigerator, it will go a lot slower, but it will continue to ferment. That could provide you with better flavor in the future as it sits more. I don't know. This is my first batch, so, you know, I'm experimenting. I just want you to see. You can do it. Now, it is pretty thick, and it doesn't take much to clog up the strainer, so it helps if you stir it. Kind of get some of it up off of the screen and make room for the liquid to get past. Now I've got all this juice out of the puree. I've chosen to take what was left and send it through one more time to see if I can't get any more, because I want all of it. Now we'll add our brine to the pot. And 150 degrees for 15 minutes. While that's happening, if you're going to put them in jars or bottles, I'd recommend sanitizing them too. You can always boil them in hot water for 10 minutes or so, or you can throw them in the oven just like this, 180 degrees for 15 minutes. Same thing with the lids and rings. Go ahead and make sure they're completely covered with water, completely submerged, and boil them for a minimum of 5 minutes. Man, just look at it. Let's see what happens. Bloop. It's got good flavor. She got a hell of a bite too. Get a little sweetness from the mango, not much. After we pureed the hell out of those peppers. She's spicy. Tastes like hot sauce. Tastes like hot sauce, and it came right out of our garden, man. That's awesome. Here I have distilled white vinegar and apple cider vinegar. You can add vinegar to it to help make it more shelf stable, drop that pH. Also to give you a little tang to the hot sauce that you get in any kind of commercial stuff. So I'm going to try, because it's a mango, I'm curious if the apple cider vinegar, which is kind of sweet, would taste good with that mango. Let's see what we got. That's good. How's the apple cider? It's okay. I don't like it as well. I don't know. Maybe I do like it. Here, you try. They're both good. They're both good. I can't even pick. I can't pick which one I like more. They're different. I recommend that you do the same thing I'm doing right now. Highly recommend it. Just sit at your counter and lick your fingers. Habaneros are really hot, but it tastes so good. Now go ahead and top this off with vinegar to your liking. That looks good to me. Now we'll go ahead and get our jars filled up with some hot sauce. You can do this with a 1/4 inch of headspace. Make sure the jars are hot, the sauce is hot, everything's hot. We're calling this a hot pack. Now we want to clean the rims off of these jars. You just take a paper towel, a little white vinegar, get your little splash on there. Okay? Now you just go around and wipe the rim. And that just cleans off any kind of debris that could prevent the gasket on your ring from giving you a good seal. Time for the lids. Now because these are fermented and we added vinegar, the pH is down low enough that we do not have to pressure can. We're going to do this right in a water bath for 10 minutes. I would recommend investing in one of them things, the jar lifter. They're very nice to have. Make sure that all of your jars are completely submerged. There's nothing wrong with stacking them like this one is, as long as the one on top is still completely submerged underwater. And that's it. You let that boil for 10 minutes. Turn it off, get it off the heat. If you have a lifter, you can go ahead and get your jars taken out and put them on a rack like this, or a rag like this, and let them sit for a little while. If you don't, you can leave them right there in that jug of water until it cools down. Let it cool down naturally. And that's how you'll get your seal. And when you store this, you want to make sure that you take the rings off of the jar. Leave the lid. This is the lid. Leave this on. Take the ring off, because that will hold in moisture and it can rust and screw up your seal. So you don't want to. See, I'll show you in here. See, none of my jars have the actual ring except for this one. This one's not processed. This is just Old Bay honey, which if you've not tried that, you are missing out. Take the rings off. Make sure that everything you use gets washed really, really well, because the stuff, the peppers release the thing that's hot. I can't remember what it's called. So us fancy people here today, we're going to call it juice. They release that juice and it gets into your skin. It gets onto the surfaces of everything that you touch with it. And it will it hurts. It's probably smart to go ahead and wear gloves through this entire process, but I never claimed to be smart. With that, folks, you've just learned how to make homegrown hot sauce. If you like my videos and I've been able to teach you something, please help support me by doing your Amazon shopping at o'learylink.com. And with that, thanks for stopping by and watching. See you next time.